welcome to the Book of Wellbeing podcast, a place to help you to understand, manage and improve your mental health and wellbeing, where you will find the knowledge, guidance and tools you need to improve your life, and where you can build your own wellbeing toolkit to take with you whenever you need it. Life throws obstacles in our tracks all the time. We come across problems frequently in our day-to-day lives. It happens to all of us and it's part of life. Sometimes, when we're having a difficult time, or when we encounter several problems at the same time, or even one problem that persists and doesn't give us a break, our tolerance to them can reduce, and then something called stress happens. Sometimes a problem we're faced with doesn't bother us, we manage it quite well, and then another time the same problem might occur, but we don't manage it so well. Sometimes our tolerance to stress and things not going our way can be low, and there's a number of things that can cause it. One morning, I might lose my car keys just as I'm about to leave the house, but that day I'm fairly chilled. I got up early and I have time to spare. I haven't had to rush, and I look and then find my keys quickly. There, problem solved. The next morning, I might lose my keys just as I'm about to leave the house, but that day I'm rushed. Things didn't go my way getting ready. I'm tired and I'm late. I look for my keys, can't find them, and it takes me ages until I do. I've become stressed and uptight in the process, and there another problem has developed in addition to the first one. Stress is basically our response to problems. We will be discussing stress more in a future episode, but today let's think about how we manage our problems to prevent stress happening in the first place, or at least to reduce it. We view so much of life occurrences as problems that we don't even realise we're doing it. We might not be calling them a problem, but we're treating them as one, usually by complaining, and sometimes feeling hard done by. Sometimes we are hard done by, but reminding ourselves of that and repeating the complaining doesn't tend to help. It just keeps the problem going. They are here to stay, so we might as well get used to dealing with them. Aiming for a life problem-free is not going to happen. It's not realistic. There's always going to be things that are thrown our way that are difficult to manage. But life problems actually give us strength and growth. It's how we learn and how we develop. We need them. I know that might sound strange, but we do. We need problems to be able to problem solve. There is a list longer than the contents of a dictionary for human problems. They range from minor things like dropping something to bigger problems like financial issues and difficult relationships. Like I said earlier, one day something isn't a problem to us, and the next day the very same thing becomes one. We need to come to terms with and accept a problem rather than asking why. Why? Why? We're really good at this as humans, silently asking why. Sometimes constantly resisting and searching for answers is unhelpful, and when we do this, we will stay stuck in that place because we're too focused on the past to be able to put our attention to the future. We have to come to terms with the fact that we live in an uncertain world so that problems don't catch us off guard as easily. If you still find that you keep asking why, because yes, it can be hard not to, then do this with the purpose of finding out what went wrong, so that you can learn and make things better for yourself if the same thing happens again in future, rather than endlessly chasing your tail for the why. So let's learn how to solve problems better so that they feel more manageable and so that your mind feels more manageable when they arrive. The first thing we need to do is remove the word problem. I read this in a book once that suggested changing the word problem to situation, and it really works. It helps. Even when we speak the word problem, it sounds glum and tiring, all ready for a complaint. So we have a situation, or even an obstacle, because even those we can jump over. Not all problems need to be or can be solved, and sometimes we just have to ride them out. Having hormones, or even a child with hormones, COVID-19, or someone else making bad choices, those things we can't control, and therefore are unlikely to solve. We can do things to help how we deal with them, but that's about it. So getting the problem or the situation we're now calling it we're going to solve right is important. Maybe that's how we're coping with something, or maybe it's something we can solve. Perhaps we need to get something fixed, or we've had a pain that's been niggling away and we've been brushing it under the carpet. We need to speak to a professional about it. Or maybe we've just got too much to think about all in one go and now we're feeling overwhelmed. So once we know that we have a situation, we need to determine whether it's actually something that we have control over to change. If it isn't, then we need to leave it as it is and accept that. But if it is something that we can control, then we can work to solve it. We're actually really good at problem solving, and most of the problems that we face, we solve them without having to think too much about it. This is usually the small stuff. The bigger things that come together in force are the areas that we sometimes need to focus more time and thought into solving. So, we've changed our phrasing to situation. There's no problems here, just situations. Then we determine whether or not it's something that we have control over to change in the first place. Then once we've identified our situation or situations, we focus on how many solutions we need to move forward. For each situation that we have control over, we find a solution. Not all at once. This is one step at a time. There's no time limit, just whatever fits you. And if it doesn't go to plan, or we let our plans slip for a while, that's fine. We just get back up and we try again. For this week's toolkit, I have 3 tools to introduce to you when we're focusing on situation solving. The first one is called 5 Whys. Now, this is actually going to contradict something I said earlier. I don't mean it to. I'll try and explain. So earlier I advised to try and avoid constantly seeking why, because often we're not actually getting to the bottom of the problem by doing that. We're just resisting. But when we're trying to work on solving our situations to make life easier, we do need to have an understanding as to why we might feel something or why something might have happened if we can. So we go through asking why just for this purpose only. So for example, if I feel really stressed, I'm stressed. So I ask, okay, why? Why do I feel stressed? Because I've got too much to think about. Okay, that's not really helping. I haven't got to the source of it. So I do it again. Why? Why have I got too much to think about? Because I'm working a lot and there's a lot going on at home. Still not quite to the bottom of it. Okay, why? And so on. So we keep asking why up to 5 times just until we have an understanding of what's going on. And once we've done this, we know where solutions are needed. Next is the what should I do tool. I'm going to really briefly talk through this one, but I'm going to upload a copy of a template of this onto my Instagram and Facebook pages so that you have access to your own copy. You can save it or copy it. So this tool helps us to solve the situation. There are 6 columns that we can fill in. So the first one is a summary of the situation, just a really quick sentence, what's going on. The next one is the desired outcome. So with any plan, it's good to start at the end. So first we decide and picture where and what we want our situation or our solution to be. Then we have 3 columns of possible solutions. So 3 or up to 3 options of what we can do to solve the situation we've got. And then finally, the best solution. So the best one out of those 3. And often when we've put something onto paper, when we see it in black and white, it makes much more sense and we can break the problem down and know what to do to find a solution. Finally, tool number 3. This is my favourite. I love it and I use it quite often and it's really simple. So ask your role model. So you think about a role model. It's good to have one in your mind all of the time. Somebody that you know personally, somebody that you aspire to, that you look up to, that gives really good, strong, wise advice. Or you can use somebody that you don't know in person, like somebody famous. So mine is an author. She's called Elizabeth Gilbert. This might sound really bizarre, but I have read quite a few of her books and I kind of know how she thinks. I feel like I know her as a person. So often when I'm in a bit of a conundrum, I think to myself, what would Elizabeth Gilbert say? Or what would I think she would say? And that gives me the answer. Elizabeth is a very creative and wise person. She gives sound advice. This is a really effective tool when you really need a quick solution or you need to change your way of thinking. And if you find a role model that you can in your head imagine what they would say to you, this really works. So don't knock it till you've tried it. And not every problem or situation we encounter needs a solution. Sometimes we just need to let ourselves feel the way we feel. And with time, things pass and get better, things change. But if your gut is telling you that something needs to change, it's because something needs to change. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you found some of this helpful and you can use some of the tools in your life when you need to think about solving problems. In next week's episode, we'll be focusing on habits and how we can work to change habits when we need to. Don't forget to subscribe and review my podcast if you're finding it useful. Have a nice week.